What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome into the new edition of the Vol Fanatic Show. It is 2024. We're ringing in the new year. We're going to have a great time carrying this show all year for you guys into the rest of the basketball season, into baseball season, etc. But today, man, we got three big segments that we're going to talk about. If you're joining live here on YouTube, we really do appreciate it. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, as always, we appreciate you. My name is Skylar. Michael, how are we doing, brother? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, man. We're doing pretty good. We're excited to be back live with you guys again. We did take 2 weeks off, spent time with the family over Christmas and New Year's. So we are back with you now. And right now, no plans to take Sundays off. Of course, that could change as things come along. You know, family comes first to us. So if something comes up with the family, then we put that priority first before we put y'all second. But it is a close second, I will say that. Skylar, how was your Christmas? How was your New Year's? How was all that, man?
Man, we ran a round. So the first week of Christmas, kind of from like the 21st to the 26th, we were in Texas. Got to go see some family out there. Really enjoyed that. Love flying during Christmas. It's always great. But no, man, we got to spend Christmas, I think, with almost everybody in the family, which is what it's all about. Now, obviously, the week afterwards, you're already back at work and you're like, man, we didn't even really take a break, but at least we got to see everybody, and that's what it's all about. But what about you, brother? How was your Christmas? How was your New Year?
Yeah, I'm with you on the running around thing. We went and did Christmas with all of my side of the family, did it with the wife's side of the family as well. And then over New Year's, the wife and I took a trip to Gatlinburg and spent the New Year's up there. And that leads into the shout out of the week. I'm going to cop out this week, and my shout out is going to be my wife. We had a fantastic trip to Gatlinburg over New Year's. Went to the DC Stampede one night, went up on Anakeesta, spent some time there, did a bunch of things in the Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge area. Ate at Calhoun's for the first time.
There you go.
Forge, man. Calhoun's was awesome, but our favorite part was the Apple Barn, man. We went there Friday night when we got up there and ate dinner, and actually went back Monday morning for breakfast before we left out. So that was by far our favorite part of Apple Barn. Is not a paid endorsement, but I am endorsing them. So who is your shout out for this week?
Honestly, it really has nothing to do with the show, but just shout out to all the families that make the sacrifices to make it work for the family. I know everybody wants to do Christmas on Christmas Day. And I mean, that's the goal. That's what we do. But, you know, sometimes that's just impossible for people that have to go everywhere. So shout out to all the families that understand that and don't mind having a Christmas on another weekend or the day after or something like that, to where it really better suits for everybody. Because at the end of the day, you know, Christmas Day is important. But being able to spend it with the family, at least to me and the way I was raised, was always a little bit more important than the day itself. So just shout out to all the families that made that happen. And if you can't, and I completely understand, and I'm not just saying that like if they didn't work around us, then, you know, screw you. No, I'm talking about like working around it for the whole family. Like, what's the purpose of making Christmas on Christmas Day if you can only have 25% of the family there? You know what I'm saying? So shout out to all those families that make it work for the majority of the family, because at the end of the day, if you're blessed to have a bigger family, like me and my wife, we both have, you know, like 4 sides. So, you know, it's just massive shout out to those families that make it work, because it really made it easier on us being able to hit up everybody. So massive shout out.
Absolutely. So without further ado, let's get into the first segment. Is one that we have been dying to get to for days at this point.
Who hasn't?
In Iowa, the bowl game, Tennessee just trounces Iowa 35-0. Skylar, what are your initial thoughts on this game, man?
All right. I don't want to overreact here because I've seen a lot of people do it.
There's been a lot of people that have been overreacting, and I'm glad that you start off like that, because I want to pump the brakes on it a little bit as well.
No, I don't. Nico's going to win the Heisman. I was just saying that, you know, it's How could he not, dude? Like, let's compare this. No, I'm joking. As good of a day as we had, man, we had a lot of opt-outs. And I know that was the story of the bowl game, of the bowl season, is opt-outs, opt-outs, opt-outs. I mean, look at Florida State. Florida State had the audacity, and like the whole fan base, had the audacity to say after Bama lost that they should have been in. But they're not going to credit the fact that they got absolutely trounced by 60 to a team that wasn't even in the playoffs, right? And so I guess the point of the issue is Tennessee probably had more opt-outs than a lot of teams, especially more than Iowa, but we didn't let that be an excuse on how we performed. In fact, I think we might have even performed better than we could have had we had everybody, because I think those kids that were out there that Saturday morning or that Saturday afternoon on January 1st had something to prove, right? And they did it. As good of a day as Nico had, right? I think he had 3 rushing touchdowns, a passing touchdown. Man, our defense played so good. And like there was literally our secondary had Jalen McCullough, Gabe Judy Lolly, and the rest were like incoming freshmen, right? And you had Andre Turrentine, who's not a freshman, and he played a baller of a game, dude. But those are the guys that we're going to see step up here next season. And man, they gave us a lot to be proud of. They gave us a lot to be. The whole team did. I'm very excited about what. I know we don't put too much into bowl games because it's really just the cap of the season, not necessarily a preview of the next. But for us, it kind of was a preview of the next year, and that's a stout defense by Iowa. I don't want to short that at all, but we still found a way to move the ball. Had a complete game, complimentary game, special teams. Our punter, Jackson Ross. I know after the game Nico had, you're like, how are you talking about the punter? But dude, he pinned it inside the 10 like 3 or 4 times. I mean, it was insane. So
inside the 20 here, he had 4 of his 7 punts were inside the 20. Whereas I don't have the inside the 10 stats on there, but
right.
4 out of 7 inside the 20. That is very impressive.
It's great, man. And he started out the year shaky, right? Everybody's like, who is this guy? Why does he run with the ball? It's so inconsistent.
And not only that, his first punt of the game went out of bounds, was a shanked punt as well against Iowa. Yeah. But then from there, he did what he needed to do. He adjusted, and he had a fantastic game.
Did a great job. Full, complete game. Tennessee got the win 35-0 over Iowa. I kind of want to get your thoughts. That was my initial thoughts. What are yours?
Yeah, so the offense was very impressive for Tennessee. Got off to a little bit of a slow start, but I think it was just them feeling it out against an opponent other than themselves. And once they finally felt it out, Iowa just couldn't stop them. And you mentioned it, Iowa has got a fantastic defense, but they also have not played against a team like Tennessee all year long. The tempo, the style of play, all of that. And I really think that it just ended up gassing Iowa towards the end. Now, 2 players on Iowa's team just absolutely stood out. Jay Higgins and Nick Jackson. They were all over the place, especially Jay Higgins. He has 16 total tackles, and 14 of them were solo tackles by himself. I mean, just impressive overall. He also had a sack on Nico, another tackle for loss. I mean, he was all over the place. But you mentioned Tennessee's defense also played very well, and they did. I don't want to take anything away from them, but you do also got to mention just how bad Iowa's offense is. I mean, Iowa going into it, they were ranked 130 out of 133 FBS teams in total offense, and it absolutely showed. And I was listening to Tyler and Will on 99.1 this past week, and they hit the nail on the head, man. They said all of these guys for Tennessee, they will never play an offense this bad again. And that includes playing against teams like Vanderbilt, or not saying that NC State's got a bad offense, but, NC State, Kentucky, just naming off a few teams that don't always have the best offenses. They will never play another team that has an offense that is this bad like this Iowa team did. But a credit to Tennessee, they did what they had to do in that game, offensively, defensively. You mentioned it. They played an all-around fantastic game. Were there mistakes? Absolutely. But there's always going to be mistakes, and you can build on those. And I am very excited going into next season as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. In fact, I do want to make mention Nico got the MVP, 3 rushing touchdowns, passing touchdown. Didn't have the best, numbers throwing the ball, but, to be honest with you, watching the game, they didn't really ask him to do too much throwing the ball. Very, very much in control of the game, though. For a true freshman to come in, he had control of that offensive line. He was making reads. Now, unfortunately, the offensive line kind of let him down a lot. And where I want to see Nico grow, if I can be picky about it, is, man, that kid can make some plays off schedule. That's like so 180 of how Joe Milton was all year, right? But
and not saying anything bad about Joe Milton. It's just that's the way he's not good at the off schedule plays, but he is a very good quarterback. Nico has got things to learn at being a quarterback, but he can make those unscheduled, off scheduled plays like it's nothing.
Yeah. And I'm so tired of hearing people like, man, Nico should have been the guy all along. Like, no, you can't judge that off of a Iowa team. Like, you can't judge that based off of the situation either. I mean, you got a 24-year-old competing against a 17, 18, 19-year-old. No, Joe Milton was our guy, and he was a great quarterback. Like, I know he gets a lot of slack, but he only gets that much slack because of who he came in afterwards, right? Mm-hmm. He came in after Hendon Hooker, and we all loved him. And we love him a lot more because of who he beat, right? Florida and Alabama.
Yeah.
Asking Joe Milton to come in there and do that in his 1 year, I mean, it's just unfair. And to hold him to that standard, even though that is our standard, was just unfair to him. And at the end of the day, he went 8-4. He protected the ball. I know he had a few head-scratching interceptions, but, I mean, I think his total numbers are somewhere around 20-something touchdowns to 5 interceptions.
Yeah.
You can't ask for much better than that. I mean, Joe Milton,
he still accounted for, like, what was it, 3,500 yards of total offense this year?
Oh yeah, and our quarterbacks are going to do that kind of like as a given just because of the offense that we run. But at the end of the day, Joe Milton's just a good dude. He's a likable dude. Like, you can say what you want about him, but he really cared about this team. He cared about the players within it, and I think the coaches and himself bought in. And that's the type of player I want. Like, in this day and age, I want somebody that's just proud to wear that tee. And I truly believe Joe Milton was proud to wear that tee.
Oh, 100%, because he really wanted to play in that bowl game.
Yeah, he did.
That's why he took so long before he said that he was going to opt out for the NFL draft. And I don't know the exact conversation that went on inside the locker room with Josh Heupel. Nobody does except for the people inside that locker room. But I truly believe that I do know that Joe was very hesitant. He wanted to play, but at the same time, he's like, I also got to think about my future here. Do I want to go ahead and get ready for the Senior Bowl, get prepared? That is going to be what helps me the most, is playing in that Senior Bowl, doing well in the Senior Bowl. I really believe that the conversation went down as to Joe coming and talking to Heupel, Josh Heupel saying, look, we would love for you to play, but if you decide not to play, I'm totally fine with that. We've got a guy that's ready to go, but I want you to be there. And Joe Milton said, done. I'm going to be there. And he was on the sideline, the first one to greet Nico each and every time that he came off the field. So 100%, you hit the nail on the head. He's the guy that loves wearing that power tee. And, you made mention our last show before Christmas, what is a Vol for life? Who would you consider a Vol for life? Joe Milton is 100% a Vol for life. Even though he started his career at Michigan, he came into Tennessee. He embodied everything that is a Vol for life, wearing that power tee.
100%. And to get back to the game, Nico, really, like I said, he controlled the offense. He makes plays off script. And the one thing I'd love to see him do a little bit better of is if the play's not there, just throw the ball away, right? I think we've seen that on several plays where he tried to make something out of nothing, which is, I love that. I love that. Josh Dobbs was so good at it, right? Hendon Hooker, really good at it. I think Nico Iamaleava is going to be really good at it, right? But there was some times during that game that it was just impossible, and he was outside the pocket, just dump it, kid. Like, save your body and play for the next down, right? But I am going to say this not as a disrespect to Nico. I wish there was 2 MVP awards, because there was a guy that we haven't touched about on the defensive side that absolutely signed his NFL rookie contract during that game as a sophomore. And it's a kid that we talked about week 0, really.
My exact words was, Vol fans, remember the name, James Pierce
the
Jr.
name. He balled out, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, we're talking about a guy that got a strip sack inside the 5-yard line, set up an easy touchdown. We're talking about a guy that had nearly a 50-yard pick six. I mean, you got a DN running a 4.40, dog. Like, it's no shot, man. What a game by James Pierce Jr. And honestly, I think everybody got so wrapped up in the Nico hype, and he had a hell of a game. Please do not disregard that. But you put that type of defensive performance on any other team, any other game, and I think that guy wins the MVP 9 times out of 10. And so I'm here saying it right now. Nico, you played a hell of a game, and you deserve that MVP. But I really wish there was a defensive MVP, because my man James Pierce Jr. played hard, and he deserved it 100%. And I know there's other people on the defense that played great, but my God, dude, I'm so excited for what this kid's got in the future.
Yeah, James Pierce Jr. and you mentioned earlier, Andre Turrentine had a fantastic game, had a incredible interception that
I'm going to credit that to Gabe Judy Lolly, by the way. If you've seen that play over and over, you see Gabe push him into the line, and then he makes that diving catch. That was pretty awesome.
And you're right on that, but also the way that he kind of played center field there and just read the quarterback's eyes and got over there where Gabe could push him into that. It just his awareness was impressive. I mean, you mentioned there was a lot of great plays on defense all the way around, but especially James Pierce Jr. He's incredible, and him coming back along with the other guys coming back next year and the new guys coming in. Did you see Jordan Ross, the strip sack that he had in the All-American game?
I did.
He's
a man amongst boys.
Yeah, he having him come in, a 5-star defensive end come in, along with keeping James Pierce Jr. Got Elijah Herring coming back next year.
Tyree West.
Yeah, Tyree West. Amari Thomas in the middle. That defensive line. Yeah, Joshua Joseph. I mean, we could go on and on with the names down this list. I'm excited about Tennessee.
You know what I credit that to, though? From day one, my man Rodney Gardner, Coach G, right, has been rotating guys left and right, and it's frustrated us as fans. We're like, man, it's 3rd down. Why do you not have Tyler Barron and Byron Young out there, right? And he did for the most part, right? But he rotated guys so much, even when he didn't have them, right? Even when he didn't have the dudes. But now that he's got the dudes and he's been rotating them, we've got like 7 to 8 to 10 defensive linemen that can play on any given down and can get you the exact same results that you need to go win a football game. And I'm getting chills, bro. Our defensive line has not been as scary as it is since I've remember watching Tennessee football.
Absolutely. And you mentioned Rodney Gardner there. If there is any coach on that staff that you've got to make sure that you keep, and I don't believe Rodney Gardner is going to leave. No, Rodney Gardner is not going to believe. I believe he is going to end up retiring from his coaching career as a Vol assistant coach. But if there is any guy you've got to make sure you keep on that staff, it is Rodney Gardner. The players love him. The job that he's done, as you mentioned, is incredible. Just outstanding job by Rodney Gardner on that defensive line.
Absolutely. But let's talk about Iowa here for just a little bit. Even though we're a Tennessee podcast, we want to talk about the loser second. That's how we do it. Was his name Deacon Hill?
Yeah, Deacon Hill.
Deacon Hill. Looked like a whole dad out there playing quarterback in the nicest way I could put that.
He definitely had the dad bod, that's for sure.
I mean, and I do too, brother, but I know I ain't got a game on Saturday. Like, I know for a fact I'm not playing on Saturday. The team doesn't need me, so I'm not going to go run. But that kid, I just, man, he's bad. I mean, I don't know how to put it in a nice way. There was a play where he kind of scrambled out to the right, and my man, I think it was Tyree West, was chasing him down or somebody, and he just, like, gave up. Like, he straight up huddled up and took the sack when – if you can think for that long to do that, why not throw the ball away?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, just so many head scratching things that he did, his decision making, that interception in the red zone, which it was a great play by Andre Turrentine. Great coverage, but that's just a bonehead move by that kid right there for Iowa, and it really sucked the life out of that team for the rest of the game. And
did they even cross the 50 again until the backup Marco Linez came in?
So I know the backup crossed it. I think they did actually. Deacon Hill and the team got past the 50 several times, but then I know we had a couple of sacks, and I want to say they missed a field goal or something strange happened. I don't know. I watched the game like the day after because I knew I couldn't hear it. I was at a Christmas party. I couldn't hear the game. So I wanted to watch it again. I know they crossed the 50 again, but you almost knew that they weren't going to score.
Yeah.
Because anytime they got a first down, it was like they had to play out of their minds and get lucky to get the first down to begin with. I mean, our defense played so good, but now when you're playing a team that can't run the ball, or excuse me, when you're playing a team that can't throw the ball, you get to play man coverage, maybe play 1-2 high safety, but even 2 high safety is a little much. You can stack 6-7 guys in the box and run pretty easily. And when you got linebackers that are as athletic as ours, you can get away with putting that extra guy in the box and still being able to cover the flats the way we did. Now, again, Iowa's offense is really bad. Mm-hmm. So you're not going to be able to do that to every team. That's why I don't want to put too much stock into this game, at least defensively. But really love what I've seen out of our boys and very excited about Nico, man. True freshman quarterbacks to play and start in a bowl game, and his stats right there at the top. And I'm talking Peyton Manning, Tyler Bray, I want to say Casey Clausen. I
think you might be right.
I don't think it was Ainge. I think it was Clausen.
No, Ainge did not start as a freshman in a bowl game.
Yeah. So, I mean, you got those. I mean, he's in there with some great company, and he played like he was meant to be there, too. It wasn't like an accident. Like, I mean, the kid really handled the moment very well, and really excited about next year, man. I hope he can lock down some quarterbacks in the high school ranks, though, with Jake Merklinger already on campus. If we can lock down George McIntyre, which that decision is coming up soon, because let's be honest, our quarterback room is pretty thin. If Nico goes down, we're down to. But that's a conversation for another day. Right now, it's all about the team and how we finish the year 9-4, and solid year for Tennessee, man. Solid year.
So talking about Iowa again for a second, did you see the concerning moment that Iowa fans had in the post-game press conference from their coach?
I did not. What happened?
The very first thing he said before he even asked for questions was, before we get into this game, I just want to say, let's focus on the 10 wins that we had this year. It was a fantastic year overall. You just got trounced 35-0 by Tennessee. This is the, I believe, third time this year that you've gotten beat and been shut out. I know for sure it's twice because it happened against Michigan and it happened against Tennessee in back-to-back games. And I believe it happened one other time this year. And the first thing you say is, let's focus on the 10 wins that we had this year.
Yeah, Iowa versus, I think there are 3 ranked opponents, which was Michigan, Tennessee, and Penn State.
Maybe. I'd have to look it up.
I don't know the third one. Please don't hold me to it. I think they brought it up during the game broadcast or something like that. It was 92-0. 92-0. If that doesn't allude to how bad the Big Ten is outside of Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State, I don't know what does. When you're talking about a team that point differential is so as bad as theirs is, and yet they're still they found a way to win 10 games. It's crazy, man. But I just don't get how after 3 or 4 months of that, they couldn't find a way to generate some offense. Like the lack right. of. I was right. Okay.
Yeah, it was Penn State. That was the other ranked team that they played.
Yeah, the lack of evolution, like the lack of just not wanting to change a thing, you know. But I think they had some weird stuff going on coaching wise. I don't know if it was a son of a coach or something like that. That was the offensive coordinator that got fired. I don't know, man. That was just a rough scenario, whatever you want to call it. But I'm not taking it away from our boys. We went out there. We played well despite the opt-outs. We went out there, and that game meant something to us. I hate it when losers lose a bowl game and be like, that game didn't mean much. Nah, horse crap. It didn't mean much because you didn't win. Like Ohio State winning the game, or not Ohio State, Georgia winning the game against Florida State. Florida State coming out saying, "Oh, that game didn't mean nothing." Bullcrap. If it didn't, Georgia wouldn't play the way they.
Yeah, it meant something to Georgia, all right.
Exactly, man. It's just it's crazy the losing mentality that we have now, and I think some of that is the way the world's going, like in general, just the way people think. Another part of that is the playoff. The playoff is so important to make the playoff, which it is. Don't get me wrong, but it's almost like for college football, I don't know. Like a kid can really just throw in the towel on a season and like throw away all the work they've done just because they didn't make a New Year's Six or a playoff game. Like it's pretty wild.
Since we're on the topic right here, and if you don't know an answer today, we'll come back to this. What do you do to fix the opt-out situation? Because it's a problem. All these players opting out, it is a problem for college football. What do you do?
You alluded to this pre-show, and it's a very good question because I'm gonna allude opt-outs with also the portal, kind of the same. I'm gonna put them together. It's not one thing, man. Like it's a big issue that needs a lot of work done. But the first thing and the easiest thing to do is push back the freaking portal date. Push back the portal date. Having it in December before the bowl games, it's a real slap in the face to the players. Imagine a player who graduates from the University of Tennessee, loves Tennessee, but maybe he wants to go get a master's degree in something that Tennessee doesn't offer, and yet he still wants to play football because he's got one more year of eligibility. So he commits to Texas A&M because they have the course, right? And he still gets to play football because he loves football. He loves Tennessee. That's why he graduated from here. But he's going to Texas A&M. This is a scenario I'm bringing up. But you're going to tell that kid that he can't make that move unless he basically enters the portal before the season's over with. So now he's having to quit on his team prior to playing his final game there. That is so unfair. Like, because to say, I mean, most casual fans are just going to say, well, if he's hitting the portal, he don't care about the team regardless. Like, no, that's not true. There are certain scenarios out there that the kid really loves the school, and that's why he graduates here, but needs that master's degree somewhere else. He might even know that his pro ball's probably not realistic or something. I don't know. But I think the easiest thing that we can do right now, especially to keep opt-outs to a minimum, is moving that portal date back. Now, you're still going to have your opt-outs from kids that are going pro, but let's be honest, that's 1 or 2% of the athletes in totality. If we're trying to keep these opt-outs in because a kid is basically quitting on a team, we're going to need to push back that portal date to January. Think about it, dude. After bowl season, what the hell are they doing? It's dead period. There's absolutely nothing going on. That's when the portal needs to happen. In December, when you got the recruiting classes signing, getting on campus, you got bowl preparation going on. You're talking about the next season already. You're getting ready for a game. And then, oh yeah, by the way, we're going to open up the portal during the midst of all of that. It's just too much, man.
Yeah, there it is right there. You got that full play. I don't understand how coaches do it, because you've got some coaches that are preparing for conference championships. You've got others that are preparing for bowl games, along with you got the early signing period in December. And you mentioned it. On top of that, you're going to throw in that transfer portal too. There's just way too much going on in that whole Christmas time period. And these coaches are also trying to find time for their families as well. There's not enough. There's not enough,
and Christmas on top of that.
There's not enough to go around for those coaches right now. But I think you're right. The transfer portal does need to be moved back. And I was going to save this for later. But the question I had to you that I brought before the show was, what do you do to fix the transfer portal? And I do think that you can put the opt-outs and the transfer portal together. But I also want to kind of separate that. What do you do to fix the transfer portal as far as the problem that the NCAA has with players just being unhappy and transferring?
You got to limit the transfers. You've got, let's talk about DJU, because Iamaleava is hard to say. DJU is transferring now for the third time in the third season, in 3 seasons. That's ridiculous, dude. Like, that's insane. Now, I understand if a coaching change, yep, that's you go ahead, transfer, because you probably committed as much to the school you committed to the coach, right? So if there's a firing, transfer, sure. But allowing a kid to transfer just off of feelings the first time, basically, or whenever time they choose it, based off of feelings, they get the one free transfer. And then you get a kid that can transfer when there's a coaching change, and then you can transfer when you graduate. That's 3 transfer opportunities. That's too much. That is too much. You can transfer during a coaching change or based off of feelings. Like, it should almost be like a trump card. You shouldn't be able to do both. One or the other. And then I agree that if you graduate, you should be able to transfer solely based on, you don't know what that kid wants to get as far as a degree, master's degree, whatever the other school is going to be offering versus what your school offers. Because believe it or not every college offers the same courses. So that's why education is a big deal at Tennessee. I mean, that Tennessee does a great job in their education. But I think as far as amount of transfers, 3 is too much. Limit it to 2. Either you're not happy, transfer, or coach and change, transfer. I don't think you should be able to do both.
I agree that's a good point there. Either you transfer because you're not happy, or the coaches. But also, when you commit to a school, because just a little side note, how many of these players are transferring out after being at the school for 1 year because they're not just getting put on the field right away like they need to? I'm sure if you dug into the numbers, there's a bunch of those type of players.
So that, and in the last 3 years, because of NIL money.
Yeah.
Well, you told me I was evaluated at this, and something that I learned watching or listening to the EA show on 99.1 is a lot of times these player evaluations, these numbers that you're seeing on these websites, they're not even getting fractions of that in real life money, like annually. But I do think they made a great point, so I'm gonna credit them. They kind of mentioned, and it won't happen because the legalities is crazy, and it's not just that they commit to play football; they also commit to get an education. But it would be like okay, this is how much you're going to make in NIL, and like a portion of that has to go toward your tuition. And
I agree.
You know what I mean? Because I mean, that was NIL, pre-NIL, is you didn't necessarily get paid, right, in cash or whatever, in checks to go to a school, but you got your tuition free, which not that long ago meant a lot. Meant a lot to get education for free. Now it doesn't mean anything to these kids because I don't know. I know, but I don't want to get down that road. So I think that was something that they brought up that kind of made me think a little bit like, could they? And then really they can't. There's no way they can do that. But they could revoke a scholarship. If they don't commit, 4 years.
Another thing that I bring up that I think would help fix some of it is, they need to make that letter of intent that they sign to go to the school almost like a contract, where I think that you have to be in college for football 3 years before you can go to the pros. I think that you should have to go to that school for 2 years before you decide to transfer. I know that there's some other circumstances, maybe you're not being treated fairly. And when I say treated fairly, I mean, you got situations kind of like what happened at Northwestern. Now that's an extreme situation, but all the hazing incidents that went on under the Northwestern head coach, if you got situations like that right there, I think a player should be allowed to transfer. But I think when you sign that letter of intent, you're making a commitment to that school. You should have to be there for 2 years before you decide to transfer out. But I also agree with you. 2 transfers at the most. 1 because of your situation. 2 because of the coaching change. That's either or. You don't get 2 transfers, but unfortunately, the NCAA has approved 2-time transfers are automatically allowed to play. But I think you should have one of those transfers be either because of your feelings at the school or the coaching change, and then the other one, as you mentioned, the grad transfer.
I hate the whole I'm not happy, I'm leaving. No, you should have put more thought in that on your decision before you just commit to a school because they're giving you the best. I don't know, whatever. But anyways, Cheez-It Citrus Bowl, man, the Vols got it done 35-0 over Iowa. Nico looked impressive. I think all the hype is there and deserved, and really looking forward to next year. Something you want to see the Vols work on in the off season to work towards September and go.
I'm just gonna say continue to get better at the little things. There was a lot of things that went well for Tennessee in that game, but there were some little things that that they still have to work on. I think that you just fine tune the little things, get everybody on the same page a little bit better, because there was times where not everybody was completely on the same page, but it was few and far between. Work on the little things, fine tune them, and just get a lot of reps. And the more reps that you do in practice, the better that you're going to be overall going into the next season. But if I had to point out a place that I'm concerned about going into next season, that is offensive line. Gerald Mincy just transferred out after the bowl game. That is a big player on the offensive line for Tennessee. So do you go and get somebody out of the portal that can play right away? I know that Tennessee is looking at a couple of guys. Or do you bring up one of these younger guys to fill that spot? And I think you could go either way, but I'm leaning more towards the portal because Tennessee has had the opportunities to pull these younger guys up and have them fill their spots this past season because of all of the injuries on the offensive line. And they weren't there. Those guys just weren't ready for it yet. So the offensive line is a concern for me going into next season. That's something that you're really going to have to address. What say you on things that they need to address in the offseason?
Finishing it up. Not really things that they need to address, but things that I'm really excited about. Because things that they need to address is wide receiver room.
In the wide receiver room is for a different reason.
Brew coming back, baby. And that's going to help a lot. Because let's be honest, Ramel Keaton wasn't really that exciting player that we had last year. But I think a lot of that had to do with because they knew they had to key on him, and he wasn't good enough to beat that. Yeah. Brew is good enough that teams can key on him, and he's still going to go up and make a play for Nico. He is the one guy that Nico can straight up throw it up on the sideline and say, catch the damn ball. Excuse my language. But I think him coming back, which I called this a long time ago that I thought he was coming back. I'm so glad I was right on that because I would have had to eat a lot of crow if he didn't. But I thought it was pretty clear. If he wanted to go pro, which I think he could, but it would be a lot like the Hendon Hooker situation where he wouldn't be able to practice in front of the scouts. All he would have to be able to do, or all he could do, is talk. Which at the end of the day, especially at the wide receiver position in the NFL, is like one of the most important positions outside of quarterback. Is talking is not going to get you a third or second round pick. So him coming back, if he can be that leader, which he has been that leader for the team, I think that's the only way to really raise his draft stock. And I think that's why he's making the decision he's made to come back. And that's going to be the anchor for the wide receiver room, man, because let's be honest, Dante Thornton came in and we thought he was going to be that Jalen Hyatt 2.0, and he was getting there, but it took him like 8 games to do it, and he got hurt during that game. So hopefully we just need some depth at the wide receiver room. Caleb Webb, Chaz Nimrod came on strong. Nathan Lickock, not sure what's going on with him. I thought he was going to play a lot more in the backup role than he did, but regardless, we need some guys. We got Colin Braswell coming in from Tulane, who is their number 1 guy. He's a very exciting player to watch. Very excited about
Mike Matthews as well.
5-star Mike Matthews coming in as a true freshman next year.
So that's why I say I think the wide receiver room. Yeah, I think the wide receiver room is an issue for a different reason than the offensive line. I think that now the wide receiver room has so much depth in there that you got to figure out who you're going to put on the field.
Well, see, I disagree because, on paper, maybe. But what is these – other than Brew, what have these guys done? And Squirrel White's great, but even it felt like he had kind of a down year this year, right? Or maybe not because he didn't play much last year. But I don't know. I think I was expecting a little bit more out of him. But you just don't have these guys that are proven on the field outside of Brew and Squirrel. So, and Squirrel's not going to be your every down player like Brew's going to be, or
Yeah.
I don't know. They're going to have to figure it out, and I think they will. But I think you're right. On paper, they look stacked in the wide receiver room. I just hope it translates. I guess that's my point or my concern, because we've seen the running back room. We're going to be just fine. We're going to be just fine. In fact, Dylan Sampson ran the ball against a defense that only gave up 4 rushing touchdowns, which Nico had 3. He ran the ball 20 times for 133 yards, and that's good for almost 7 yards a carry.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna be good. We're gonna be solid. All right. And Cam Selton didn't have a bad day himself, so just made a little bit of boneheaded moves on some short plays, but
I've been a big fan of Cam Selton since he first got on campus. So I'm excited to see those two. You still got Khalifa Keith back behind them, and you're bringing in what's his name? Bell.
No, we're bringing in Peyton Lewis.
Peyton Lewis. Where did I come up with Bell? I don't know.
Probably the transfer from South Carolina. But Peyton Lewis is the 4-star running back coming in. He's on campus now. He's going to be now. Cam Selton looks like a whole running back, dog. Like it's just those 3rd and 1s. I think he did it on 3rd and 1 several times during the Iowa game where he kind of like too much tippy-toeing, like just hit the hole, dude. Hit the hole even if it's not there. But that's a freshman thing. We'll learn from it and we'll get better from it. But you got any closing remarks from the game and from our volunteers to close out the 2023 season?
All I'm going to say closing off is, guys, Nico was fantastic in that game, but
he's winning the Heisman.
See, that's what I'm talking about right there. Don't just go chips all in, because next year will be his first full year as a starting quarterback. So he is going to have some growing pains. Now,
look, I have to be realistic all season. This is the off season. I get to be unrealistic here. Okay, I get what you're trying to do, but let me fantasize, just like I did about Joe Milton in the off season, because I have to eat crow all year long, dude. This is my one chance to say we're the best again, dog.
But that's the point right there, is the hype that we all put on Joe Milton this past year, and we got disappointed because he didn't quite live up to that. So I think that Nico is going to be a fantastic player in the Tennessee uniform, because the poise that he had in that game, how in control he was of that offense, he was impressive. And I'm very excited for him, but I also want to just dial it down a few notches and just say, let's see what he can do for a full season first. But I'm very excited going into the offseason for Tennessee.
You hit the nail on the head. This is going to be a fun offseason. I expect the spring game to be another 70,000 in attendance type spring game. It wasn't 70,000, but it was a lot. Felt like 100,000 because they crammed everybody on one half of the stadium. But I think if we can put the pieces around Nico, which we're starting to see that with some of these guys coming back, when you see stuff like that happening, the players believe in the player that's leading them. Yeah. That's what gets me excited, because now it's not just the fans saying whatever they want to say. You got the players who get to practice with that kid every day, believing in what that kid's going to do this next season. And they're choosing to not go pro to come play with him. So, and Sean just commented that Nico has all the potential in the world. And I agree. But to what Michael's saying is, sometimes when you have that type of hype in the offseason, you could go 10-2 and be pissed off because you really expected that much to go win a national championship, which is really unfair. It's really unfair for him. It's unfair on the team. But at the end of the day, Tennessee standards are to be in the conversation, and especially with the playoff going to 12 teams next year. We better be in the conversation.
Absolutely.
So I'm excited about it. Really looking forward to what the offseason has coming for us. But let's if you want to take us on to the next segment, man, I'm kind of excited about it, because I think this is the official crowning of the champion. Crown me, dog.
It's unfortunate news that we have.
Unfortunate. Oh, come on, man! Don't do me like that, man.
Everybody wanted me to win, man. Robert was right on my side, man. He thought I was going to come back, and I did too. But But yeah, Skylar ends up taking the football competition this year between Skylar and I. His overall record was 104-31. Mine was 99-28. Skylar went 6-4 in the bowl picks. I went 5-5, and in just a moment we'll go through all the games and tell who won and who picked who in those games. But
so for my prize, I'll wear a size 8.5 Yeezys.
Hold up, we ain't doing that. This is a meal, man. We ain't buying no shoes.
Come on, man! I got to add to the collection of my 2 pair of shoes that I wear.
So for those that might be tuning in for the first time, Skylar and I did have a little competition going on during football season, picking the SEC games, and the winner or the loser was to buy the winner and his wife a dinner at a restaurant of their choosing. So Skylar and I are going to get together off the air, and we're going to determine what that is. So we're also we hadn't discussed it any, but we're probably going to do a basketball pick'em as well, and then right into baseball season, probably do a little baseball pick'em in there as well. But we got to work out the fine details on that. There will not be any picks this week, but we'll get together.
Well, there'll be one. If you want to take, I mean, there's no way you could win, but if you want to take this pick thing with the college football one more game, there's one coming up on Monday night.
Yeah, we'll pick it. We'll definitely pick the national championship, who we think is going to win. But yeah,
I went over on the playoffs. Over.
Which the only reason you went over is because when I picked Washington, you said, "Well, I'll go with Texas." So
I secretly wanted Texas Bama in the championship. It's all good. I have to eat crow on that one. That's okay.
But anyway, real quick, we'll go down the list of these bowl games, tell you who won and then who picked who. So we'll start off the game on Wednesday, December 27th. That was the TaxAct Texas Bowl between Texas A&M and Oklahoma State. Both of us picked Texas A&M in the game, and unfortunately, Oklahoma State and Mike Gundy got the win to finish off the season at 10-4. So a pretty good year for Oklahoma State.
Yeah, I was afraid of that with that being the first game for Mike Oko. Didn't know what all he could really implement in the first game, for him there at A&M with, you got kids kind of checking out, not buying in, whatever. But Oklahoma State looks so bad against Texas. I didn't even think this was possible because A&M had a pretty good defense. But
yeah, screw
what we thought. They went out and won the game. So
yeah, that's right.
Absolutely. So the next game, I believe, was that very next day on the 28th. That 29th. Was it the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl or was it the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl? And that was Kentucky Clemson, probably one of the most exciting football games in the bowl season. You had
back up the most exciting fourth quarter because the first 3 quarters were terrible.
Fair enough. But I think there was like a combined 40-something points in the fourth quarter between these two teams, man. It was insane. And in the most Kentucky fashion way ever, they choked.
Yeah.
they choked so hard.
Yeah, 42 combined points in the fourth quarter. Clemson scored 28 fourth quarter points to win the game 38-35 over Kentucky in the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl.
That's a big win for Clemson. That's a big win for the ACC because they didn't get a lot in the postseason. But big win.
But both of us did pick Clemson in that game, so we were both correct.
I did. Well, and I was more out of spite of Kentucky than me believing that Clemson would win. So, but yeah, you want to hit up the next game real quick?
Yeah. So the next one is the first game that the two of us split. This was later on that evening in the Goodyear Cotton Bowl, Missouri and Ohio State. And Missouri uses 14 fourth quarter points to beat Ohio State 14-3. Skylar got this one right. He picked Missouri. I picked Ohio State.
M-I-Z.
Yeah, because of Ohio State's defense, and they played very, very well for 3 quarters of the game, and then their offense just couldn't do anything. Missouri did a fantastic job in that game on defense, and then the offense came alive in the fourth quarter. But Real quick, you mentioned something about players transferring out during the bowl season. A credit to Eli Drinkwitz because he told the guys on his team that wanted to transfer out that had entered the portal. He said, if you want to still play in the bowl game, I don't mind it. And he had guys that played in the bowl game that were actually in the portal. So a big credit to Eli Drinkwitz there. I think more coaches should do that for their players.
Yeah, that is pretty cool for Drink. It keeps the toxicity kind of out of it. Go in there, play with your brothers, finish the year, and then whatever you do after that, that's up to you. But you committed for the season, you're going to play the whole season. So cool on him for that. That's actually pretty cool, and I think more coaches should probably do that. But I don't fault coaches that don't because they understand that they want kids to play that are going to be there next year and that are bought into the program. So, hats off to them for that decision. So the next game would be on the 30th. Let's do the Music City Bowl. Yeah, let's do the Music City Bowl. I think that was the first one. It was at 2, and the other ones, nope. It was the Peach Bowl actually at noon, wasn't it?
Yeah, we'll start with the Music City Bowl though.
Yeah, because the Peach Bowl was bigger. Music City Bowl, we had Auburn, Maryland. That game was a rout by Maryland, which was kind of surprising, but again, I told you when we picked this game that the game meant nothing to me. You had a bunch of 6-6, and I think Maryland was 7-5, maybe. But
yeah, they finished off 8-5 after that win. But the concerning thing for Auburn in this one was after the game, Coach Hugh Freeze said, "Yeah, we didn't really prepare for the bowl game. We were focused on recruiting and the transfer portal." That's one of the most Hugh Freeze responses ever, by the way. So.
And just like that, I mean, that further explains why I think we need to get rid of these bowl games that reward a team for going 500.
I agree.
And that's coming from a guy who used to love when we went 500 because we've had some rough years. But to reward a team for winning half their games is pretty wild. And I think that needs to change. So, but hey, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying?
Yep, absolutely.
Let's head over to now. Let's do the Peach Bowl. Ole Miss, Penn State. That was actually a fun game to watch. Did you get to catch it? And were you surprised by the outcome?
I caught just a little bit of it. That was while the wife and I were at the Dixie Stampede, so I didn't get to catch much of it. I was a little bit surprised by the outcome just because I did pick Penn State to win this game, and I did that because of the defense as well. Penn State has one of the top defenses in the country, but we mentioned it. That is also skewed a little bit because of the offenses in the Big Ten not being very good, and Ole Miss did a fantastic job in that game. Jackson Dart was incredible, 379 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. But big news out of Ole Miss after the bowl game. Quinshon Judkins enters the transfer portal.
Well, let's be honest. Let's take a moment and talk about this because this will be a segment of its own. Ole Miss had a lot of news since their bowl game. I mean, you got guys like Tyler Barron, Tamarion McDonald, straight from our team that are committed to Ole Miss into the portal. You got guys like Juice Wells, who we thought we were in the running for. He's going to Ole Miss. You got guys like Walter Nolan, who used to live here in Powell, Tennessee, who's going to Ole Miss. You see Ole Miss bringing in these top guys out of the portal, which we know that's how Ole Miss does it because they don't really have much to sell from a high school recruit standpoint as far as what they have to offer. But you can go get some of these guys who maybe have went to the bigger schools, maybe didn't have, or maybe they did have what they wanted, but maybe just want to go somewhere else. And that's when Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin can really make their pitch. For a guy that complains that they don't have money, they sure are spending it like crazy on these portal guys. But, we talk about that toxicity and recruiting kids. One thing about recruiting to a kid is they're a kid and they're going to talk about it. And I think what you see here is you've got some of these kids that are coming in making bank when they're transferring into Ole Miss, and you see a guy like Quinshon Judkins, who is literally their number one guy, right? And he may not even be making top 5 or even top 10 as much as, some of those kids are making and coming in. And you can call it selfish, you call it what it is, but I think it's a respect thing. And if you're going to take care of guys that have never even played it down for you, how are you not going to take care of the kids that have been there for you for the last 2 years and been your biggest production? I think that's what you're seeing here. And
that's not just an Ole Miss problem. That's all over. You got guys that are taking care of these.
Nailed it.
You got teams that are taking care of the guys out of the portal and not taking care of the guys that they have on campus. But I do think that's a big part of it right there. But I'm also going to throw out 2 other things. One of them that I learned this past week was Kiffin actually lied to Quinshon Judkins about how he was going to use him. He told Quinshon that he was going to use him more out of the passing game, make him more like a pro style running back. Because now the running backs in the pros, that's how they make their living, is out of the passing game. They're not just a downhill runner in most cases, like old running backs in the NFL. And that's not how Kiffin used him. He used him to set up the passing game and didn't really get him involved in it. And the other thing, how do you think that maybe Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss likes Ulysses Bentley a little bit more than they do Quinshon Judkins? Because Bentley did have some big games this year. He didn't do a whole lot in the bowl game against Penn State, but do you think maybe they like Ulysses Bentley a little bit better than Quinshon Judkins, and Quinshon didn't want to split the snaps as much?
I mean, it could be. I mean, you've seen Jalen Wright kind of last year say, like, I don't want to be the number 2 guy. Like, I want to be the number 1 guy. And maybe Quinshon Judkins is kind of like, I want to be the guy. Like, I don't want to split at all. And that could be a lot of what it is. And, Lane Kiffin's part, or to his point, he may be kind of a guy that's like, hey, I'm going to do what's best for the team, regardless of what you want to do. And I don't know. I don't know what happens behind closed doors. Like, the conversation that we're having about it could not even be even remotely close to what's actually happening out there. We're just looking at it from an outsider's perspective. And I do know for a fact that you got Lane Kiffin spending a crap ton. Not Lane Kiffin. You got Ole Miss spending their collective, spending a lot of money on these kids from the portal. And I've not really heard about a new big deal for Judkins at all during, the end or later part of the season. So,
yeah, I do think that is a big part of it, is the NIL thing.
Yeah.
But I was just throwing out a couple other things that maybe that also plays a part in it as well.
It could be, man. But it's going to be a little bit of a lot. I mean, it's going to be a little bit of a lot that kind of goes into that type of situation. And do you have any inside information on where he could be going?
I don't.
Me neither.
I do know that Alabama is a big contender. There was another team I saw. I do know Georgia is not, because they just picked up ETN out of the portal. So
Yep.
It's not Georgia, but there's a couple of big teams that are going.
I wouldn't, depending on the room, I wouldn't be so shocked if he went to a team like LSU, just because it's not far away.
I think LSU would be a fantastic spot, because LSU really doesn't have that standout running back like we're used to seeing LSU have. I think that LSU would be a good spot for Quinshon.
That LSU was kind of wanting Dylan Sampson, because Dylan Sampson was the hometown kid, and they swung and missed. Like, we're better than you. Sorry. He stayed home with us. And so now I could see LSU going for another running back out of the portal. And I mean, I don't know. That's just me outside looking in. That could be where that goes. But that was a very long take on the Peach Bowl and on Ole Miss in general. And let's try to wrap up this segment with the games here. You said there was, the Orange Bowl. Next.
Georgia only beat Florida State by 60. So a pretty close game overall.
I'm pissed. I wish they would have hung 70.
But we both.
I want to tip my hat to Georgia, man. I want to tip my hat to Georgia, because they could have done exactly what Florida State did, in my opinion. They were hosed probably more than Florida State was when it came to not getting in the playoff. I've said that, and I'll say it again. I don't care what your take is. I get it. Florida State went undefeated, but just like we're seeing in the Big Ten, winning that conference, which Michigan did beat Alabama, but I don't feel like Alabama was the best team. I think they just got a great game against Georgia. Big Ten is just not a good conference. So doing what you do in the Big Ten is not near as impressive as what you do in the SEC. I would even go ahead and say Pac-12 this year, which sucks because they're getting blown up. But the Pac-12 was freaking good this year, and so a team that wins a lot in the Big Ten is just kind of like a bleh, because I mean we're seeing it in the postseason. Aside from Michigan, we're seeing it in the postseason where Big Ten just can't hang. You see it with Missouri, Ohio State, and Missouri handled the game, never in doubt. I mean, just controlled the line of scrimmage. You got Tennessee beating the technical Big Ten runner-up and the West Division champs, Iowa, and we just dog walk them. Which I'm not going to use that too strongly because I understand that Iowa's not good. I think everybody in the Big Ten knows that Iowa's not good. But you can't say that and then say that the Big Ten's good. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So, Florida State, Georgia did what they needed to do because they were hosed pretty badly. They probably should have been in the Final Four, and they didn't let that hinder them for their, the work they put in, and they finished the season strong, and they buried Florida State.
Georgia did what I said Florida State needed to do, and that is have all your guys play and go out and beat Georgia. This is what I said Florida State should do. Go out and beat Georgia and prove you should have been one of those 4 teams. Georgia turned around and did that to Florida State. They said, we're just going to go out and beat Florida State as bad as we can to say, hey, we should have been in. That's what Georgia did, so credit to them.
Well, and to your point, I mentioned it too because I said Florida State needed to go beat them because not only would that put them at 14-0, 14-0, they could then declare that they're the champions, and I guarantee you 95% of America would have jumped on board. They would have been like, yep, yes you are. Hang that banner. We're for it. They would have had everybody on their side. But no, the way they quit and the way they made excuses and then wanted to say that they still deserved to be in because Alabama lost in overtime, that has completely turned every single program, and I would even venture to say even half the teams in the ACC, against Florida State. People are tired of hearing it. You had a chance to compete with Georgia, and you threw in the towel because you were crying like babies. Like, come on. And people are going to say, well, if we would have made it, 19 people wouldn't have opted out. Okay, yeah, you had 19 people opt out. Georgia had a lot of people unavailable too. In fact, Georgia played their second and probably third string in the second half, and you still lost by 3 or 4 touchdowns. Don't come at me with the bull crap. Don't come at me with the bull crap. And I had one guy try to say, well, that was because they were tired in the second half. I don't give a damn. As an athlete at that level, you are expected to compete for 60 minutes despite the scoreboard.
Yep, absolutely.
If they're too tired in the second half, they wasn't a good football team. So, that's just my opinion on it. Hats off to Georgia. Way to prove to everybody what they already knew. It is what it is, man. But what does that bring us to? There was no games on the 31st because that was a Sunday for the NFL. So
January the 1st, we've got the ReliaQuest Bowl between.
That was a fun game.
That was a fun game.
That was a fun game.
Turned out to not be a game that we expected because, and I should have known this, but Jaden Daniels did not play.
Yeah.
I was going to say Jaden Daniels did not play in this game like I thought that he was, but I never saw anywhere where he opted out. But he did not play. Garrett Nussmeier played in this game, and it took LSU a whole quarter to kind of get into it, and finally LSU did pull it out. Their defense is still awful. That is something they've really got to fix in the offseason, but they pull out a win 35-31 over Wisconsin in this game. Both of us did pick LSU to win the game.
Yeah, that one made us look pretty good. That one, that was a. I didn't expect Wisconsin to put up that big of a fight, man. I thought LSU would kind of hand it to them pretty easily, but credit to Wisconsin. And I think LSU came back. It was kind of like comeback fashion too. I think they were down by multiple scores at one point. So
it was they were down. They were down 14-0 after the first, and I think they might have even been down 21-0 before they ever scored.
Yeah,
but I could be wrong on that. I do know they were down 14-0 after the first.
Okay, well, hats off to them for not giving up, coming back. I think that game meant something to them. So because if not, they were down just like a lot of teams did. That brings us to the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl in Orlando and Tennessee. Obviously, we talked about that one. Big win for our boys. And then we both picked that one, hopefully.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, both of us picked that one. Then we'll move on to the Rose Bowl, Michigan and Alabama. And what a ball game this was. Michigan does end up taking it 27-20. The game went to overtime.
What do you think about that play call, real quick?
I think it was a good play call, but you know what stood out to me on that play?
The low snap?
No, the low snap did play a part in it, but what stood out to me was the way that Michigan just absolutely blew up Alabama's offensive line. And not just on that play, but the entire game. They just kept blowing up Alabama's offensive line, and that's where it comes in as it was a bad play call because Nick Saban should have known that they were getting blown up the entire game, and he still proceeded to try to run it anyway. But Alabama put the ball in their playmakers' hands, and I can't fault them for that. I think that was the way to go, is put the ball in his hands and try to make something happen. And
I agree with you in that sense, but it was more of it was a bad play call because they had already ran that play like 7 times. They had ran that.
Okay, that's a good point.
They ran that play all game long, and it was working for them, which is exactly why Michigan knew that's what they were going to do. Like they should have got him on a little bootleg. That way he's not running into 7 people. He may have to run against 3 people. Get him on the outside, give him the option to throw or tuck it and run like we seen Nico do in the game where he had the option to throw the ball or take off and try to get those 3 yards. I just think that was a stupid play call. You were one-dimensional, and it was a play call that had already been ran several times during that game. And I think everybody, I mean, when me and my dad both look at each other and be like, yeah, it's a quarterback draw, and then they do it, like that's just too predictable. Like no casual fan that doesn't even watch the teams all year. I did not watch Alabama but about 3 games this year. And we knew exactly what they were running on that play after 3 timeouts or whatever it was. Like that wasn't creative enough to get 3 yards, in my opinion. But that's just, it is what it is. And Alabama's going to be saying fire their coordinators because that's what they do after every loss, and that's okay. So,
I mean, you're not going to sit there and say fire Nick Saban.
I mean, it is what it is, dude. It is what it is. No, but let's talk about that other playoff game, man, between Washington and Texas. And what a game that was.
That was a fun ball game.
I thought it was over, and then they still almost came back and got it done.
Yeah, so Washington wins the game 37-31. This game kind of reminded me of the Oregon game in the Pac-12 championship game, how Washington the game was almost never in doubt. I know towards the end, Texas had a chance to win it, but Oregon also had a chance to stop Washington in that Pac-12 championship game. All Washington did was just get the first down. Washington got the stop that they needed, but Washington controlled the game for the most part.
No,
which is what they did with Oregon.
Absolutely. Real quickly, the Ohio podcast, man. Thank you for joining. Joining for the first time, he said this Buckeye was in a tough spot rooting for Bama last week. That's tough. That's tough, man. But I appreciate you joining in. Thank you for the comment. And man, we look forward to seeing y'all down the road, and we may have to tune into your show, brother. So thank you so much.
Hey, I've already subscribed our channel to him. We'll be tuning in there as well. So
there we go.
Hey, that's what we got to do. The smaller podcast, and I know the Ohio podcast, y'all are a little bit bigger than us. You've been doing it a little bit longer, but I mean that's what we got to do. All the smaller ones, we got to support each other. So appreciate you tuning in, man.
Yep, but back to the game of Washington and Texas, the way that thing ended, man. I really thought it was over. I done started heading into the house because I was watching at my folks' house, and but it turns out it came down to the very last play of the game, and it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. I went 0 for on the picks. Washington got a big win, man. Washington is. Let me ask you: are they not like, especially between Michigan and Washington now because it's the final 2 teams? Have they not been one of the most exciting teams to watch all year long, though?
Absolutely. I mean, we talked about it a little bit earlier. Is Washington kind of fake news because of all the close games that they've played? I don't know if it's that. It's just what they have. What am I trying to say exactly? Kind of what they have done to win those games is what makes it exciting.
Yeah, they're just being clutch, right? I mean, just dealing with the adversity, still finding a way to win despite, because they ran some close games with some not so good teams either. Winning by 3, winning by, I think they won by 1 at one point, I think. But no, like doing what they need to do to make the plays to win. Maybe it's not always pretty, but I swear that they're the big play team all year. They're a 80-yard touchdown pass away every play. Like, I don't know how. Absolutely. This is not going to make sense, but they could be in the red zone and still throw for a 75-yard touchdown. That's just how Washington's been. That's how Washington's been all year, dude. And my wife brought it to me, and she's a Michigan fan, right? So I had to be careful with how she asked this question. But I went and met her for lunch, and she was like, "Who do you think is going to win?" And I'm like, "Yeah, well, I think Michigan." I think Michigan's like the bigger team, like we're going to bully you. And I just feel like Washington's that more exciting, big play type of team, completely different brands of football, not just the logo on their helmet, but just the way they play. Michigan's got very smash mouth. We're going to run it down your throat type of ball. At Washington and Michael Penix, brother, he was committed to Tennessee, but Jeremy Pruitt's dumbass. So, but
let me ask you a question about that final play there, because there was a lot of controversy. I think most of it was Texas fans complaining, but pass interference or no?
Man, let the boys play. Like,
I think that it was a good, clean play. There was some contact.
Let the boys play. It was the final game or final play of the game or whatever. Like, let the boys play. You never want. So if they would have thrown that flag, let me ask you: they throw that flag, Texas goes on to win. Does it feel like a win? Now, Texas fans are going to be like, "Yes," but to anybody else watching that game, would they really be like, "Nah, y'all didn't win"? Yeah, exactly.
No. But let me also throw out another scenario here. If Alabama had beaten Michigan earlier, does the flag get thrown so that it gives Texas a chance to win for the rematch?
We're starting to give away some insider information, brother. No, I'm sorry. No,
but I say it was no pass interference. It was a good no call. I think the defender got around and made a good play batting the ball down. That's just my opinion on it. Other people might say pass interference, but also Ohio podcast. I will be tuning in tonight. He says we're going live at 8:00 Eastern tonight. I'll tune in tonight, man.
I told you all the podcasts go live at tonight. That's why I wanted to do it earlier in the day, brother. We'll be tuned in, but that's exactly why we do ours early in the day. So hopefully, for anybody that wants something to watch midday right after church or something like that, we're not big NFL people. We watch it every now and again just because we love the sport of football, but we'd rather go live earlier so that we can catch all the shows tonight. But we appreciate you tuning in. And let's wrap it up, man. Let's do our predictions for the national championship game so we can talk a little basketball before we jump off here. National championship game is set for Monday night, which is, I hate that. It's stupid. But we got Washington versus Michigan. 1 versus 2. To be honest with you, that doesn't happen that often. But
it's not often that you have 2 undefeated teams like this either, because how many times has Alabama won it where they've had 1 loss?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, how many times in the playoff era has it been a no SEC championship game?
Just twice.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost happened as many times where it's a SEC versus SEC than it is no SEC teams. So
yeah, I think it was Josh Pate mentioned. So the first time that it happened was the opening year of the playoffs, and now
Ohio State beat Oregon. Yep.
Yeah. So now the last year that we are doing the 14 playoff, we got a non-SEC national championship,
which is exactly why I wanted my boys to do it, man. Because I was like, man, this is our last chance to say that we made the 4 team, and we never could do it. It's unfortunate. We were at least ranked number 1. at one
we were
point.
ranked number 1 at one point,
So
and
we're like one of 7 or 8 teams that have been ranked number 1. So I'm okay with that. Like that's a small victory, moral victory right there. No, we got 2 teams battling out, man. I just kind of want to get your preview of it. What are your thoughts? Who you think's going to win, brother?
So this is 2 very, very different styles. Michigan,
Yes,
you mentioned earlier, they are the bully ball type of team. Kind of like I thought Alabama was going to be this year. Alabama ended up being more of a big play type team, but Michigan is that type of team. Washington is looking to hit the big plays, but let me tell you, here as of late, their running game has come around. Michigan has got a stout defense, but Washington has also played very well on defense here lately. This has been a tough decision for me. I've gone back and forth on this, and I think that this game is either going to be very close, or I think the only way it's a blowout is if Washington blows Michigan out, which I don't see happening. I think this is going to be a close game.
So it's the pick there, son.
Give me Washington. I think I know that it's the Cinderella pick. I think a lot of people are looking at Michigan winning this game, and I can make an argument for them to win this game. I can make an argument for both sides, but I'm going to be pulling for Washington in this game. Just the way that their season has gone. Give me Michael Penix Jr. to win.
You see that light right
You
there?
always say you're not going to let me go first, and then you let me go first.
You see that light right there? Yeah, that's. I know it's blurry, but I think y'all can make out the outline of what that is right there. Let's see. Turn off, dude. Thank you. I want to applaud you for that pick because that's exactly who I was thinking about picking, but only because I think Washington has thrived in those close games, which I think this is going to be a close game. I think it's inevitable. It's going to be a close game. Washington doesn't really blow out anybody just because I don't know why. It's almost like the defense is like, our offense is going to bail us out. Like, I don't know what happens. They don't typically blow out anybody, but they do win the close games. And I think they're the more exciting brand of football. But I've been picking games all season long based on that, right? Based on who's more exciting, who's got the explosive play ability. I'm solely picking this because you picked Washington, but I'm picking Michigan. I'm also picking.
The competition doesn't matter anymore. So
no, it doesn't. It doesn't. But I still like to win. All right. So I'm also picking Michigan because my wife's from there. She went to Michigan. She didn't go to Michigan. She went to Alabama. Oh, how did I lie? How did I lie? How did I? Yeah.
How do you know that she's from Michigan and she went to Alabama? Man, what was going through your head there? No,
it was funny the way she dressed last weekend when they both had to play each other. That was she had like Alabama socks, a Michigan shirt. I think she was still wearing a Tennessee bow, but I don't know. Like whatever. Like no, it's she only went to Alabama for one semester for what it's worth. For what it's worth. So
she's not a what do they call it down? Is it an AFL down there? I mean, so she's not one of those.
I don't know, man. She wants to get her degree from there. She wants to go back online and get her degree from there. So she'll eventually be an out. I think, look, as a very happy and proud husband,
got to figure it out right here. Happy wife. Happy wife.
I think what it is, man, is she. As hard as this is to admit, because I love my wife and I think she loves me, she's at least sold it very well that she loves me. And she went down there for a particular player. His name is Tua Tagovailoa. And when he left, she was like, fuck this place, I'm out. And he had some dogs, I think. And my wife's a big dog person. She got me a little thing right here that says the dog father, which I don't really want to have in here because I know that there's a Georgia fan out there called the dog father, but it's spelled different. So that's what I'm hanging my hat on. And so I think she really liked that. And then when he left to go to the NFL, she was like, all right, I'm out of here too. I'm not saying that she cheated on me with Tua, but if she did, I think I'd actually be okay with it. I think I'd be okay with it. I I mean, it is what it is, right?
Just give me a cut of that money to it.
I mean, if I'm good enough to have a wife that got with Tua, who's playing in the NFL, like, hey, I'm doing something right. Now I'm just running a podcast with 4 people watching, and 2 of them myself. Hey, that's her loss. Like, it is what it is. So, but no, it was funny the way she dressed up for New Year's Day. That was cool. That was very fun. But no, I'm choosing Michigan. You're choosing Washington. We're gonna take this thing all the way to the very end. It's been a very fun season, man. It's been very fun doing this with you.
Yeah, it has been, man. I'm glad that we got together on this. But now, without further ado, let's get into some basketball. Can I start this? Because
I'm ready to run through a brick wall, dog. I'm ready to walk through it. Man. Look, I was at the hospital eating lunch with my wife. She wanted Cane's. The only way you can get Cane's, because it's like basically on campus here in Knoxville, is you got to like walk to it. I come back. There's people in the cafeteria, and they're pissed off because I didn't realize it, but the Lady Vols were playing right before we went live. They were playing Kentucky. And these people in the cafeteria, good people, right? But they were pissed off. They actually were sitting away from the TV because they said how bad the Lady Vols were playing. They were down by 17 at one point in the second quarter. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to watch the game because I know the team's healthy again. You got Rickea Jackson back. You got some other people stepping up. I'm like, screw what these guys say. I'm going to watch the game. I want to watch the game. Like, there's nothing else on. It was like SportsCenter, whatever. So I'm watching the game, and like as I'm there, they closed the gap in the third quarter. They were down by 10 after halftime, and then they were up by 6 by the end of the third quarter. And when I'm talking SWAT team, brother, we have this. I think her last name's Key. I don't know her first name. I apologize, but she is Tamari Key, brother. I'm telling you, man. Number 20 for our defense. She was just like every freaking play. I was questioning Kentucky, but it was just like swat. Like everything Kentucky was doing, brother. She had like 7 blocks in one quarter, and I'm sitting there like, what is Kentucky doing? Like you're giving her the block, but I wasn't playing. I mean, we got back in the game. I'm pretty sure I didn't see it, but we were up by 13 with like 2 minutes left. Pretty sure we won the game. That was
87-69. So,
oh my God. So not only did we come back from 17, we came back and whooped that ass in the second quarter or second half.
Tennessee outscored Kentucky in the second half. 48-20. 48-20 in the second half. Tennessee outscores Kentucky in this game.
I almost feel bad for Kentucky. I really do. I don't, but I almost do, because they just can't find. Like, that was their fallback. They're like, okay, you can beat us in football because we got you in basketball. No, you don't. No, you don't. Like, you ain't got us in nothing, dog. Like, it's sad, but oh my goodness, what a game by Rickea Jackson, by Key, by all the ladies, really. I mean, I was watching in the third quarter. Rickea Jackson would like catch the ball in the paint and wouldn't even like look. She would just like catch and shoot, and it would be 2 points every time. Every time. And I'm like, damn, she like racked up probably 30 points today. And
she had 27. Having Tamari Key back is, having Rickea Jackson back is huge. I mean, she was hurt towards the beginning of the year, and that's when Tennessee went through a little bit of their slump. They weren't playing well, but now that she's back, that is huge for Tennessee. Her stat line today was 27 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 assists. She also had a steal. Just
and she shot like 70%, didn't she? She was like 10 of 16.
She was 11 of 18 is what she finished off with, and she was also 4 of 6 from the free throw line. So,
I mean, she just balling, and hats off to the team, but to Kelly Harper, because I know she's had some doubts this year with her coaching, but I was so unaware of the injuries that she was having to deal with and coach through. And the way she rallied that team from, I'm kidding you not, they were down by 17 at one point in the second quarter, and they finished the half off only down by 10, and then they just never looked back in the third quarter. They took the lead and never stopped. And that was an awesome game to watch. I know Lady Vols basketball, some people were kind of like, it's ladies. I'm not really that interested. But that game right there was fun to watch, 100%. And I encourage you guys, if y'all haven't checked out our Lady Vol basketball program, y'all be sure to tune in. We're now 2-0 in the SEC.
Yeah, they were also, I was going to mention real quick, the Auburn game the other night. They were also down against Auburn at halftime. It was let's see, Auburn was winning 40-32 at halftime, and Tennessee outscores them in the second half, 43-27 in the second half.
Are we just a second half team, dog?
It must
call
be.
Us, call us the Alabama football team.
Yeah. So Tennessee, very impressive to start the SEC slate. Let me pull up real quick. I think they've got 2 games this week. They play against Florida. Let's see. Yeah, they play against Florida on the 11th. I believe that is that Thursday night?
The 11th is going to be
11th is Tuesday. Sorry,
Tuesday night. Yeah.
Yeah, they play against Florida Tuesday night, and then it looks like Friday night, the 14th, they will play against. Wait a second, no. The 11th is Thursday. The 11th is Thursday. Yeah, sorry, I had to pull up my calendar real quick.
Yes, because the 10th is Wednesday. Yep, 100%.
Yeah, the 11th is Thursday. They'll play Florida at home, and then next Sunday. They'll be playing against Texas A&M in College Station. So that is their 2 games this week.
Absolutely. But hats off to the Lady Vols getting that massive win. And hopefully they can carry that momentum because I think they're now 9-5 and 2-0 in the SEC. Yeah, I was doing that purely off the old noggin right there. Let's talk about the men's basketball team because – man, that was exciting. Ole Miss coming into town last night being 13-0 and undefeated coming into Thompson-Boling Arena. And that didn't phase our boys one bit. We actually beat them down, 90-64? And it was never in doubt. I mean, the boys got out to a lead really quickly, very early, was up by 10, like within 5 minutes of the game, and just never looked back. Looked like the bigger, better, stronger team. And that's not to say Ole Miss is not good. I think they are a very solid team. But I think this is what we're talking about by the schedule difference. Us playing those bigger, better, stronger teams to begin the season, which looked bad because we lost 3 games early. But I think that's really gotten our team very much prepared for the SEC slate. And you clearly seen the difference there last night.
Absolutely. And, just looking down the stats here, this right here is the big standout in this game. So Tennessee and Ole Miss, they were pretty even on a lot of stats. They had Ole Miss had 8 steals, Tennessee 7, 4 blocks to 3. Turnovers, Ole Miss had 11, Tennessee 10. Points off turnovers was equal at 16.
I mean, I agree with you. Field goals, you got 47% from Tennessee, 42% from Ole Miss. 3-point line, 36%, 37%. And then free throws is honestly the big difference. You had Ole Miss going 12 of 17, which is 70% free throw line. But you had Tennessee going 11 of 13, which is 84%. Which both teams.
The big stat. The big stat was offensive rebounds.
It's assists as well.
Yeah, but Tennessee on the offensive rebounds out-rebounds Ole Miss 19-4.
Second chance points. And that's where a lot of those assists came in. You would win the offensive rebound, push it back out to the arc or whatever, and get those easy 2 points, 3 points. And, assists, man, I kid you not. We had 25 assists. That's almost like every basket came from an assist. And you had
25 assists on 34 made baskets.
Yeah, and you got Ole Miss only having 11 assists. So basically, their guys are just having to make a play to get a basket rather than getting a clean pass and an empty, or a clean look. No, Tennessee, everything was clicking for them, man. And I love to see them not slow up. Like, I was afraid they'd get out to a big lead and kind of, take, run the clock, whatever they had to do. But no, they kept the steam going. They got a massive win against Ole Miss. Another big resume builder for them. And man, I know it's early in the season. But I was kind of afraid that we were overhyped. Being ranked 5th in the country this last AP poll that came out, and I know we played some good teams, but I didn't feel like that we looked that great. I know we were winning some big games, but I didn't know if we really looked like a top 5 team, man. Like, I know it's basketball. Like, if you've got a top 5 team, you're going to look like a top 5 team. Against Ole Miss, we look like a top 5 team, dog. Like, it looked great.
Tennessee is starting to look like a top 5 team. And, I agree with you. They hadn't necessarily looked like it early this season, but you look at the competition that they were playing, and
Yeah.
it was tough to look that way in those games. But Tennessee yesterday also had two players with double doubles. You had Jonas Adu, your guy, had 24 points and 10 rebounds yesterday, and Zakai Ziegler with 17 points and 10 assists yesterday.
He balled. Zakai Ziegler's getting back into his form. I don't
Yes.
know. I don't know if it was like a fit thing. Like if he just kind of wanted to warm up. I know he said he's been working a lot on his arc, his shooting motion, his form, because when he was hurt, that's all he could do is shoot. He couldn't really jump. All he could work on was his form. And he started out a little shaky. I think he missed his first 2 threes in the game, but he came along strong there as the game went on, and he always looks at his best when he can do it all, right? When he can shoot from the 3-point, when he can go down in the paint, get those nasty layups in. That's when you see Z back at his strengths.
Yeah, and he embodies Coach Barnes' philosophy of, if you struggle shooting the ball starting off, don't quit. Because you look, he took 11 3-pointers yesterday. He ended up making 4 of them. So and the other night, I forget who they were playing now. It was
I got you. Hang on one second. They were playing Norfolk State, I believe.
Yeah, Norfolk State. I believe you're right on that. Yep. He started off 1 of 5 from the 3-point line in the game. He finished up 5 of 10 from the 3-point line. So he made 4 out of his next 5 3-pointers. So he embodies that philosophy right there. And I want to just quickly make mention of my guy, Jemai Meshack. He is my favorite
ball, dude. Hey,
he did, and I believe Tennessee really had momentum at the end of that first half, but him knocking down that buzzer beater 3 to go up 9 at the end of the half, that just pretty much put the nail in the coffin for Ole Miss going into that second half, because Tennessee did not let up from there.
No, and the confidence that grew from that moment. He shot that 3. The buzzer went off as it was in the air. It sank, and it was a beautiful shot, and you could just feel the arena. You could feel him, the way he walked off with that confidence. It wasn't a cocky thing. It was just like like we're feeling it right now. Like the shots are making, like we're here. And that's what you need to do, especially when you're at home. Because when you're playing away on the road at somebody else's arena, you're not going to, you're going to have some momentum, sure, but it's going to be solely on the court. You're not going to have the crowd behind you and stuff like that. So you got to be able to make those plays while you can at home, get the crowd around you. Man, Thompson Bowling was rocking last night, rocking today. I know it wouldn't have sold out arena today with the Lady Vols, but man, that crowd was going nuts when they took the lead in the third quarter. No, in the second half, to follow up a 40-point performance in the first half, to follow it up with 50 in the second. I'm loving the fact that you're starting to see our best defense, right? And you're starting to pair that with great offense. For so long, we've had such a good defense, and we just not been able to get it done on offense. But now you're starting to see it really complement each other this year, and that's what we've been missing.
Yeah, absolutely. And to go along with that, Tennessee did that last night with their best overall player, Dalton Knecht, only having 8 points and only playing 19 minutes in the game. So you're getting it all the way around. You're not just relying on one guy, which is something else Tennessee has been looking for.
Absolutely. Dalton Knecht's kind of concerning me a little bit. Was he a flash in the pan, or is he just not feeling it right now? What's going on with Dalton Knecht?
I think that he's just trying to work through some things right now, because Tennessee or teams are really focusing on him after that North Carolina game. That their main thing is trying to stop him, and it is opening things up for these other players. But I do think that he's also trying to force a little bit, trying to get his. So it is a little bit concerning, but I think that this is just a little bit of a slump that you're seeing with him. And I think as he gets along into this further into the conference season, I think that he's going to start coming back into his own. And when he does, when you get it along with Adu and Ziegler and Vescovy and James, you get it along with those guys, they're going to be just fine. They're going to be a force to be reckoned with.
100%. I agree with you. Another thing that keeps me really excited about this team is just the depth. I mean, you got 8 to 10 guys. You got a full rotation that can play at any time, any minute. You know, I am a big fan of Jonas Adu. I've made that very aware from like honestly our very first podcast or episode where we talked about basketball. I thought that he was kind of the backbone to the offense. As much as we want to say it's the flashy players like Vescovy or Triple J or Z or whatever. No, I think when Jonas Adu plays at his best, it's kind of like I'm gonna try to put this in football terms because if nobody's really known or could tell, I'm not a big basketball guy. I love to watch it. I love to support my Vols, but I'm heart and soul into baseball and football. But to put it in football terms, it's like when you have the offense clicking, you can run, you can pass, you can option, whatever you want to do, everything's there. Well, everything's there for the basketball's offense when Jonas Adu's clicking in the paint or on the 3-point line and playing defense. Because Jonas Adu last night, it just wouldn't be denied. I mean, if he got the ball, he was scoring. And that's something that we need more out of the big man. And I think, man, if we have more performances out of him like that, he's not going to score 20 points a game every game. Like, that's not going to happen. But if he can consistently get 12 points and 10 rebounds a game, man, this offense is going to be hard to stop. It's going to be hard to stop.
And, bringing up that right there, it's just like Josiah Jordan-James. He's had a couple of games this year where he's put up 20+. But, last night he had 8 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 assists. If you can give me those numbers night in, night out, maybe get 10 or 12 points, maybe not 8. If you can give me that along with 8 boards, 5 to 6 rebounds, 5 to 6 assists each night, man, I'll take that all day long from Josiah Jordan-James.
Absolutely. Big night from our Vols on the court, and we got another big game coming up. I believe they play Mississippi State Wednesday. Georgia is the Saturday game, so they play Mississippi State coming up Wednesday, January 10th. That appears to be a road game. It looks like they have a 2-game road stretch between Mississippi State and Georgia. If I'm wrong, correct me on that. But so 2 big games. Mississippi State, I think right now is projected to make the tournament, but now it's really early in the season, so I'm not going to put too much on that. But regardless, the SEC in general has done a really good job as far as I'm going to call it the preseason, but it's not the preseason. It's just before SEC play. They did a really good job in their non-conference slate, getting some wins, kind of boosting their resumes up for SEC play, because SEC is going to be hard. If you come out on the right end of it, which Tennessee should, but you got a lot of these mid-pack teams that really need to just survive the SEC slate to make the tournament, right? And I think they did a great job of boosting the resumes up, right? And Tennessee's going to have a couple of good games coming up. Mississippi State and Georgia are no slouch, but should be favored in both of those games. So we'll be watching.
And just going down the list real quick from yesterday, had a big game down in Gainesville. Florida played against number 6 Kentucky, and Kentucky pulls out the 2-point victory on the road. Kentucky and Florida both have played very tough schedules to start this season, both looking good. Auburn went into Arkansas yesterday, and after a close first half that was 37-30, they outscored Arkansas in the second half 46-21 to take a 83-51 road victory over the Hogs. You also got South Carolina beating Mississippi State at home 68-62. Both of those are very good defensive teams, so a big win at home for South Carolina. Georgia goes on the road and takes down Missouri 75-68. A big win for Georgia there. Alabama squeaked out a close one against Vanderbilt on the road, 78-75. And Vanderbilt is Jerry's getting fired. Now he'll be fired before the end of the year. Vanderbilt has had a disappointing start to the season, 5-9 on the year. And then the big shocker in the nightcap last night, LSU with a 68-53 road win over Texas A&M, who is predicted to finish second in the conference behind Tennessee. So,
wow,
Texas A&M's got a little bit of work to do, but SEC is very tough. The only team right now that has a losing record is Vanderbilt. So
let me ask you this: moving forward for Tennessee, who's looking like one of the better teams, going into, the second week now of SEC play? Who's looking like one of the better teams aside from Tennessee for the SEC? Is it a team like Auburn, which a lot of people probably didn't expect this year? Or is it an Alabama team? Or, who's stepping up for you that you're kind of impressing you the most? Is it Kentucky? Is it Florida?
Well, I'm going to name a couple of teams, and I'm going to keep the reasoning brief on them. Kentucky is very impressive because, early in Cal's career at Kentucky, he put together a bunch of guys that were just, drivers. They were big on the boards. They had taller post players. Now he's got guys that can nail it from behind the arc, and they're doing a very good job of that. They're a good all-around team. So Kentucky is year in, year out, definitely one of those teams that can compete. South Carolina, because of the way that they are playing defense right now, if they can get just enough of an offensive game, they're very impressive as well. South Carolina is probably going to be my sleeper SEC team that could win it all.
Yeah.
Alabama, I love the way Nate Oates' teams always play defense. They're kind of like a Tennessee team on defense where they're just going to get after you all game long. And he lost a lot of pieces along with losing every one of his assistant coaches last year. Every assistant coach that Nate Oates had last year has gone on to be a head coach at a team this year. So he's had to rebuild the entire program, coaching staff, players, and all that. And I think that as the season gets further along, Alabama is going to be a team to watch out for. The last team is going to be Auburn. Bruce Pearl he's always got a good team there, and when they start playing his type of ball, they're a very scary team. But I'm not going to count out Texas A&M. That game against LSU could have just been a wake up call yesterday. But my teams that I think could win the conference this year is going to be Tennessee, Kentucky, South Carolina, Alabama, and Auburn. So there's 5 teams in my opinion.
Carolina.
I think they're my sleeper team.
Okay.
They are my sleeper team, but after watching them against Mississippi State yesterday, just the way that they play defense, the thing that'll get them is the offensive side of the ball. But they're my sleeper pick. But my 4 main picks that any of them could win it is going to be Tennessee, Kentucky, Auburn, and Alabama.
I agree. All right. Sounds good, man. That's going to wrap up our final segment of the day, man. Just kind of recapping what Tennessee did in the Citrus Bowl. A 35-0 win over Iowa. One of the few teams from the SEC that won on January 1st. Alabama. I'm joking. LSU got a good win too.
Alabama was the only team from the SEC that lost on New Year's Day.
I know, it's crazy. Hey, we got a longer winning streak than Alabama's got. That's crazy, dude. No, man. Big win for the boys. Big win for the Lady Vols today against Kentucky. Massive win for the boys last night against Ole Miss. Knoxville's rolling. They're thriving. We got Nico coming in. The hype for the spring is going to be crazy. You can follow it all right here on the Vol Fanatics Show. We are going to be talking all year long about the basketball team, football team. I'm really excited about the baseball team. Season's getting started here in about the next couple of months. I think they begin playing.
We hadn't mentioned it, but the softball team as well, who is coming off of a World Series appearance along with the baseball team.
Telling you, man, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be
all is well on Rocky Top, man.
All is very well on Rocky Top. You ask any fan most seasons, 8-4 is kind of like an okay season, especially if you know it's growing into something else. And I truly feel like this season was really just growing into something bigger here coming up in the 2024 season. I do have a concern with Josh Heupel, but it has nothing to do with Josh Heupel. It has to do with our history, and that is year 4 under a head coach. We just got to survive year 4, brother. If we can survive year 4, he is our guy. We're ready to lock and load. I think seeing him gush and blush and whatnot in the post-game press conferences when he's right there next to Nico, hearing them like joke to each other in the post presser. If you didn't catch that, y'all should watch that. That's pretty freaking funny. Josh Heupel throws out a slight remark that Nico needs to start watching more film, and Nico claps back saying that it's hard to watch Josh Heupel's film because it's black and white because he's so old. That's hilarious. Look, it is what it is. And Josh Heupel's not that old. I mean, he was a Heisman finalist in the, I think, 2000 season. So, or maybe 2001, but I think it was 2000. So, but no, so seeing the relationship between quarterback, head coach, I think you're seeing not just the players, you're seeing the coach really believe in his guy, and to have that type of a loose relationship, knowing that his job in the future is secure as long as this guy's healthy, that gives me a lot of confidence going forward. So all is great on Rocky Top, man. You got anything you want to say before we wrap things up, brother?
I just appreciate the people that tuned in today. Ohio Podcast, we will be tuning in tonight. Appreciate the support, man. We all got to support each other as small podcasters. So we will be tuning in, giving you support as well. Since you supported us, Sean, appreciate you commenting in. Robert, I know you'll be watching this. We missed you today, man.
Yep.
We will be back on our regular schedule starting next Sunday. Each Sunday, for those that are just now tuning in, we go live normally around 2 Eastern time. Sometimes we do have to adjust the time a little bit based on our schedules, but just about every Sunday we'll be live at 2 Eastern, normally about an hour and a half to 2 hour podcast. So appreciate you tuning in. We're also on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts, and you can catch both of us on our personal TikTok accounts as well. We do have the link tree in our YouTube bio, just to check that out. But I appreciate you guys tuning in. Skylar, anything else on your end?
No, man. Just want to say, I know it's super late, but Merry Christmas to everybody listening, and we hope y'all had a great Christmas. I got something pretty cool for Christmas. That freaking light right there is awesome. The wife hooked me up with that. She said, if you're going to do this podcast thing, you better do it right. And I was like, yes, ma'am. So we did it. And
that's the big thing. We both got to shout out our wives, because my wife, she said the same thing. She said, if you're going to be doing this, we got to do it right. So I've got stuff going on over here. Going to be working on a little setup. You've got your setup that you've got updated already. So hopefully we're going to be in this pretty deep by the time it's over with.
Yeah, it looks like people on the YouTube can kind of see the new addition over here. I was trying to hide it, but it is what it is. It's kind of cool. I like it a little bit. But yeah, man, just big things are happening. Stay tuned, and we will continue to do this. And we may even try to go live, especially later in the basketball year. We may even try to do a little live session, midweek. But I know your work schedule, my work schedule, that's sometimes impossible to do. But it's basketball. It's hard to keep up if you don't try to get out and talk about each game, in between the games, because it's not like football. It's one game a week and whatnot. But especially in baseball, when you got a whole series going on, and you got a midweek series and then you got a weekend series. So, but no, we will do our best. We're having fun with it, and I can't wait to keep it going. So,
yep, absolutely. So, guys, hope you have a great week this week. Happy New Year to everybody, and we will catch you all next Sunday. And go Vols.
Go Big Orange.